Thanks for joining us. It is 12:50 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon here in Seoul, and we're just moments away from a press hearing that is, according to the official schedule, set to begin in just about 10 minutes at 1 p.m. Korea time on the results of the South Korea-U.S. summit that took place from this morning. However, we are expecting some delay at the moment, so we will have to wait and see how exactly what time the press hearing will begin. President Moon Jae-in and U.S. President Donald Trump held an hour-long small-scale summit attended by 4 other officials from each side, followed by an expanded working-level luncheon. Some of notable attendees at both summits included National Security Advisor Chung Eui-yong, Foreign Minister Kang Kyung-hwa, as well as U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton and U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Now, let's get the latest from our chief political correspondent, Shin Se-min, for more. We heard the leaders, Moon and Trump, speak in between their meetings. Now we go live for our Shin Se-min at the top office. Se-min, what's the atmosphere there like now?
It's very hectic at this point, and there's a lot to take in, Tan. I don't know if you hear it behind me. This noise that we're getting is actually the chopper that just landed moments ago before we come on the air, which seems to be the way of transportation for leader President Moon Jae-in when he joins his U.S. counterpart, President Trump, to the DMZ later in the afternoon. Now, we had heard from President Trump that a short meeting with North Korea will take place at the demilitarized zone this afternoon. Although he did say that it's going to be a short meeting, it's assumed to be a third U.S.-North Korea summit after their latest encounter in Hanoi in February. Now, let me repeat that. A third summit between North Korea's Kim Jong-un and U.S. President Donald Trump is expected at the DMZ later today, which will be also joined by President Moon, given that Trump had said that President Moon will be joining him to the DMZ. Now, I want to play back that statement before the leaders went into their small-scale meeting earlier this morning when President Trump said that all parties are wanting to meet at the demilitarized zone today. Listen to this.
나는 그 트윗을 보면서 한반도에 평화의 꽃이 활짝 피고 있다라는 느낌을 가졌습니다. 트럼프 대통령께서 한반도의 군사 분계선에서 북한의 김정은 위원장과 만나 악수를 한다면 그 모습만으로도 아주 역사적인 엄청난 사건이 될 것입니다.
Possibility that we'll be meeting Kim Jong-un, and there's a possibility that they want to do it. Chairman Kim wants to do it. I'd like to do it.
So according to both Presidents Moon and Trump, the atmosphere is all the more hype. And as Trump had said, that although logistics and security for a DMZ meeting with North Korean leader are complicated, things are being worked out for a brief meeting with North Korea's Kim Jong-un. And something we also have learned, Korea Tours, an independent travel company based in Japan that specializes in group tours to North Korea, tweeted at around 10:30 this morning that the DMZ is closed to tourists visiting from the North Korean side. And that is an indication that perhaps security checkups are in the works for the VIPs arriving at the site. It is likely that the meeting will be in the form of perhaps a 3-way summit, including both leaders of the Koreas and the U.S. And if that is the case, it'll be the first in modern history. But as you have said, Tan, in moments' time here at the top office, a joint press conference is scheduled at around 1 p.m., but that is likely to be delayed given the delay in the overall schedule today. But during that presser, it is highly likely that the reporters here will be able to learn whether the formality of that summit taking place at the DMZ, whether it's going to be a 2-way or 3-way, making another historical event. Helen?
Se-min, a big day for you as well. Thank you for that report, and do keep us posted throughout this afternoon. Speculation is building that President Trump might meet with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un during his visit to the demilitarized zone today. We now have our Kang Hyung-woo at the Unification Bridge on the road to the border village of Panmunjeom. Hyung-woo, what are you hearing about Trump's trip to the DMZ?
So what I got from the office of the press secretary at the White House is that President Trump will leave the U.S. Army garrison in Yongsan at 1:45 p.m. later today. and head to the joint security area in the DMZ. The U.S. leader will arrive at the JSA landing zone at 2:10 in the afternoon, suggesting that Trump is likely to take a helicopter to the DMZ. Though it's not clear where exactly Trump will visit in the border area, the schedule does specifically say he's going to view North Korea, so Trump could visit observation post OLED and look at the north through binoculars, which is where former U.S. presidents visited during their trips to the DMZ. After that, Trump is expected to meet with American and South Korean service members before leaving for Osan Air Base to wrap up his 2-day stay in South Korea. That would be a total of about an hour and a half in the border area spent. We now know for sure that President Moon is going to the DMZ with Trump, and Trump did say that the meeting between him and Kim would be very short. We're really not sure what and in what way that's going to take place. But what I can tell you right now is that I've been here since 9 a.m. this morning, about 4 hours ago, and I've seen a lot of movements taking place here at the Unification Bridge. So, that would include security vehicles going through the gate and passing by me to get to the DMZ. We're hearing that Trump and Moon could actually take this road to get to the DMZ. So we'll keep you updated throughout the day on that. Back to you, Dawn.
Kyung-woo, thank you for that report. It surely is, as Mr. Trump has put it, it will be an interesting afternoon just to observe what will happen at the DMZ there. Thank you. Now, for more discussions on this afternoon and the expected developments from following the South Korea-U.S. summit, and as well as, of course, following President Trump's impromptu, if you will, invitation to Kim Jong-un. Let's bring in Dr. Bong Young-sik and our foreign ministry correspondent Lee Ji-won to the studio to discuss, have a more in-depth discussion. Welcome back, Dr. Bong and Ji-won. Let's start with you. Could you give us a recap of what has happened about the possible three-way meeting among the two Koreas and the U.S.?
Sure, Town. Well, yesterday when he was in Japan, President Donald Trump tweeted on his meeting with President Xi Jinping of China. And he also said that while in Korea, if North Korean leader Kim Jong-un sees his tweet that President Donald Trump would like to meet him at the border, the DMZ, just to shake his hand and say hello. And this tweet has prompted warning and preparation in both sides, and possibly on the North Korean side as well. And we also, from there, just 5 hours and 15 minutes later, North Korea's Vice Foreign Minister Choi Son-hee responded, saying that it is an interesting suggestion and that it would serve as another meaningful occasion in further deepening the personal relations between the two leaders and advancing the bilateral relations. But she also added that they have not received an official proposal in this regard. But we also heard just a while ago that a Seoul-based Hankyoreh paper reported that Stephen Biegun, the Washington Special Representative for North Korea, met with Vice Foreign Minister Choi Son-hee last night at the DMZ. And this is their first meeting since the Hanoi summit fell out in February in Vietnam. So we also heard from President Donald Trump that the two sides are in their final stages on working out this impromptu meeting. So yes, that's where we are right now.
Now, for those of you who have just joined us, we're now bringing you a special edition of Arirang News on U.S. President Trump's visit to South Korea and the South Korea-U.S. summit that is now taking place. A press hearing was supposed to follow the South Korea-U.S. summit at around 1 p.m., but we are now seeing some delay as the summit began just a while ago. About a 1 hour-long expanded summit attended by 11 officials from both sides, of course, as well as the two leaders, which include U.S. Special Representative to North Korea, Stephen Biegun. So we are expecting some delay for the press hearing to begin. The South Korea-U.S. summit expanded, an hour-long expanded summit is taking place as we speak. So Dr. Bong, what's your expectation? Do you really expect Kim Jong-un to show up at the DMZ this afternoon?
I think that the chance has been drastically decreased as of this morning, judging from the remarks made by both President Trump and President Moon Jae-in this morning. Speaking of President Moon Jae-in's remarks related to this possibility of the dramatic meeting with Chairman Kim Jong-un, he seems to indicate that this had to be accepted by North Korean leadership, saying that although I'm accompanying a U.S. president to DMZ, but protagonists of these events are leaders of the United States and North Korea, meaning that we understand the opposition of North Korean authority to have South Korean government included in this meeting, but this is taking place on the Korean Peninsula, and South Korean government must be reckoned with as a stakeholder of the Korean affairs. So we cannot make any compromise about the presence of South Korean authority in this possibly dramatic meeting. I guess that's one of the reasons why North Korean authority would have opposed Chairman Kim Jong-un joining the summit meeting. If everything I'm saying is all hypothetical, he fails to show up. And both leaders tried to put a very positive spin on the tweet sent by Donald Trump yesterday. If there will be a meeting with Chairman Kim Jong-un, there will be the flower of hope for the entire world. Or if they meet and shake hands, there will be historic event, according to President Moon Jae-in. So, and President Trump emphasized that I believe that Kim wants to meet me, and I also want to meet me. These statements are rather strange to me because these are all praises. They are supposed to be made after the meeting has happened. President Trump and Chairman Kim Jong-un shook hands with a short personal meeting at DMZ. There was a historical moment. And if they already scheduled to meet at Panmunjeom or DMZ, then President Trump did not need to say that, I know you have an intention to see me, and I have the same desire to see you. But the fact that they made this kind of statement, meaning that nothing has been really set in stone to confirm that Chairman Kim Jong-un will definitely show up for the meeting. But interestingly, right before the beginning of the first round of the summit meeting between the two governments, President Trump said that there was last-minute negotiations to make this happen, so let's wait and see. So it seems like North Korean authority came back to test whether they would get what it insisted in the previous negotiations, according to the Hankyoreh daily news report between Choi Sun-hee and Stephen Biegun, to be accepted by both Seoul and Washington, so that there will be a meeting, and the terms of meeting will definitely favor North Korea's demand.
Well, I'm a little positive on this impromptu meeting happening at the DMZ because just like what Semin said a while ago, the Korea-U.S, which is an independent British travel company based in Beijing, which specializes in group and independent tourism to North Korea, announced on its Twitter earlier today that the tourism tour to DMZ on the North Korean side has closed. And we also heard from President Donald Trump that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un would like to meet, and that they are in their final stages in working out this meeting. And when I spoke to a South Korean official at Foreign Ministry yesterday, he said that because it's something that the two leaders are willing to do, despite the short notice, the officials will be working very hard to make this happen.
So you're rather positive about Kim
Yes.
Jong-un showing up, whereas Dr. Pong is slightly negative on whether he
I think
really
both
will.
the leaders have exchanged their common views that they have a genuine intentions to have another meeting, whether it's personal or more official. But the critical point here is whether it is in the interest of the Kim Jong-un regime, or it is the terms that Kim Jong-un leadership would find acceptable to have a very short, abbreviated, personal handshaking meeting between the two leaders at DMZ. If that takes place, then you are going to be under increased pressure to come back to the negotiation table for denuclearization negotiations, because it confirmed that President Trump made a nice gesture to North Korea and vice versa. So the argument that it has been the indifferent attitude of the Trump administration that prevents North Korean leadership from coming back to the negotiation will be weakened. So you have to take into account, and if there is a presence of President Moon Jae-in of South Korea, then that's not a good picture that North Korean leadership would like to have.
Now on the screen, we can see the venue of the press hearing that will soon follow. Now we just heard this just in, the South Korea-U.S. expanded luncheon has also come to an end. So we're now just minutes away from a press conference that will soon follow the summit as well as the expanded luncheon. Now on the screen, we could spot U.S. Special Representative for North Korea, Stephen Biegun, smiling and talking with officials seated there, waiting for the press hearing to begin. We could also see Ivanka, Trump's first daughter, Ivanka Trump, seated and waiting for the press hearing to begin.
Foreign Affairs Minister of South Korea, Hankyoreh, speaking to No Young-min, Chief of Staff.
One thing I'd like to point out in terms of gauging the possibility of this last-minute surprise appearance of Kim Jong-un at DMZ is that it has been a pattern of negotiating behavior of North Korean authority for a long, long time. That they engage in the brinkmanship negotiation tactics. They would not budge even an inch from their original and almost always only demand. So there is no room for compromise at all when it comes to negotiating with North Koreans. But when the negotiation would be in collapse, then North Korean authority would make a surprise and last minute comeback with little bit compromise terms of demand. That happens when the when the Hanoi summit meeting fell apart. And when President Trump was walking away from the negotiation table and about to leave Hanoi, Choi Son-이 suddenly came back with the proposal that we are going to abandon the Yongbyon nuclear facility in its entirety, which is a little bit modified version of North Korea's proposal. But Secretary Pompeo and others advised the president that this does not fit to the diplomatic protocol, and there's so much risk involved in accepting such a last-minute revised proposal by North Koreans. So the Hanoi summit meeting fell apart. It is possible that North Korean authority might have engaged in the same pattern of negotiating behavior with the issue of accepting the invitation by Donald Trump with a Twitter message.
On the screen, we can see U.S. President Trump and South Korean leader Moon Jae-in walking down the stairs at the presidential office for a press hearing following their expanded summit. Now, many experts have said that they don't believe a breakthrough in the nuclear deadlock is likely from today's summit, but let's see what they have to say.
We will now begin the press conference between the President of Moon Jae-in of South Korea and U.S. President Donald Trump. Please be seated. First of all, we will hear from the two leaders, and then we will open the floor for Q&As. The opening remark will be carried out first by President Moon and then by President Trump. First, President Moon Jae-in of South Korea. President Donald Trump, I would like to welcome your visit to South Korea. Today, the Korean Peninsula, together with you, President Trump, is being at the center of spotlight in today's international community. And in 69 years since the truce agreement, the leaders of U.S. and North Korea are meeting at the truce village of Panmunjeom. It is the first time ever since for the two leaders to meet at the truce village for a handshake for peace. When we communicate and when we engage in dialogue, we are witnessing that we could proceed to eternal peace. The U.S. and North Korea will be able to confirm strong peace, and the international community is sending support to President Trump. What we wholeheartedly want is the eternal peace on the Korean Peninsula. I wholeheartedly wish that President Trump can become the president to make this happen. Peace takes more courage compared to tensions, and I would like to thank once again President Trump and the leader of North Korea, and I am very delighted to speak about this at this moment. Continued dialogue is a very practical and the only method to bring about peace on the Korean Peninsula. President Trump and I have confirmed that we share the same stance in viewing the eternal peace process on the Korean Peninsula, and especially the complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, the eternal peace, and the establishment of ties between the U.S. and the North Korea, which are entailed in the Singapore Agreement. We have seen great agreement on those. The ROK-U.S. alliance stretches, and it includes not only security, and it is a very comprehensive strategic alliance, which includes many other factors as well. Today, we once again confirmed that we share a very ironclad alliance between the two countries, and we will continue this going forward. Recently, the trade and investment between the two countries are increasing greatly, and the economic relationship is becoming a very mutually beneficial one. And after the inauguration of President Trump, the South Korean company's investment to U.S. has increased significantly. And as President Trump has said, this is a victory for both sides. Today, us two leaders have talked about expanding and accelerating the momentum of expanding the trade volume and investment between the two countries. And the ROK and the U.S. will also cooperate in solving regional issues, and the Asia-Pacific region is a very strategic geographical point in terms of discussing peace in the international arena, and it is a very strategic point in carrying out the policies of the two companies. And once again, we also shared exchanges and opinions about the concerns on the Oman Straits, where the air tanker was attacked, especially as well as the tensions on the Middle East. And the discreet and the responses that President Trump has shown, I would like to appreciate and respect his response. And the two countries will also cooperate more closely to tackle any other conflicts going forward. And we will never forget the strong alliance between the two countries, and we will cooperate proactively to carry out our alliance in the future as well. Once again, we have reaffirmed the strong determination towards a strong ironclad ROK-U.S. alliance, and we agreed that we will cooperate and communicate going forward on all issues. And President Trump, you have really become a main actor, a main party, a peacemaker in the Korean peace process on the Korean Peninsula. And I hope that your encounter with Chairman Kim Jong-un of North Korea at the Panmunjeom today can become a great milestone in peace of the international arena. Once again, I welcome you to South Korea, and our friendship is strong than ever. Thank you very much.
감사합니다.
Thank you very much. Next, President Trump of the USA.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to make a very short statement because we're going to the DMZ border, and I'll be meeting with Chairman Kim. I look forward to it very much. I look forward to seeing him. We've developed a very good relationship, and we understand each other. I do believe he understands me, and I think I maybe understand him. And sometimes that can lead to very good things. I want to start by just thanking President Moon and, very importantly, First Lady Moon, who's a very special woman, very special spirit. She loves your country very much, as does President Moon. And we had a great dinner last night together and spent a large part of the morning discussing lots of different things, including trade and military, frankly, and many other items. But I thought I would just mention that when we came here, our great ambassador, we arrived last night, our great ambassador, who's here someplace, Harry, was talking about the turmoil going on because of the level of, there was the vitriol, the level of vitriol that was happening between North and South, but it was North to a large extent where there was a lot of risk and a lot of threat and a lot of bad things were happening. That was before I became president. And as you know, and the media knows very well, because they covered it, frankly, very well and very fairly, at the beginning there was a lot of anger between myself and Kim Jong-un, who, since something happened, there was a point at which it happened and all of a sudden we get along. And I figured that when I was in Japan, where they hosted a fantastic G20, and I want to just thank Prime Minister Abe, because they did a fantastic job, and a lot of good things came out of that, a lot of good meetings with other countries, I can tell you from the standpoint of the United States. But we decided to come here a while ago as part of going to the G20. I promised President Moon. And then yesterday I was just thinking, hey, I'm here. Let's see whether or not we can say hello to Kim Jong-un. And I put out the word, and he got back, and he wanted to do it from the beginning, and so did I. But there's a lot of good feeling, you know, when sometimes the media will say, gee, what's happened? Well, they know what's happened. What's happened is there was nuclear testing, there was ballistic missile testing. They had hostages of ours, as you know, a very tough situation. And now we're getting back our remains. We got back the hostages. There's been no ballistic missile tests, and there's been no nuclear tests. And South Korea is a whole different place. And Japan, Prime Minister Abe was telling me, Japan is a whole different place. They had missiles going over Japan on a very constant basis. You know that very well. So I hate to hear the media, you know, give false information to the public when they say, oh, what's been done? What's been done? A lot's been done. And there's also a good feeling. I can tell you on behalf of President Moon, he feels much better about even Chairman Kim. I mean, he feels much better. They couldn't have meetings. Nobody was going to meet. President Obama wanted to meet, and Chairman Kim would not meet him. The Obama administration was begging for a meeting. They were begging for meetings constantly, and Chairman Kim would not meet with him. And for some reason, we have a certain chemistry or whatever. Now, let's see what happens. We have a long way to go, but I'm in no rush. The sanctions are on, and I'm in no rush. I'm in no rush with Iran. I'm never in a rush. If you're in a rush, you get yourself in trouble. So I just want to say that we're going to be heading out to the DMZ, and something I planned long ago, but had the idea yesterday to maybe say hello and just shake hands quickly and say hello, because we haven't seen each other since Vietnam. We had a great meeting in Vietnam. People don't realize it. It's all part of the whole negotiation. But we had actually a great meeting in Vietnam. We had a great meeting in Singapore. everyone gave us praise for Singapore and not for Vietnam. I think, frankly, the meeting in Vietnam, in terms of a deal, was more important than Singapore. So I think what I'd like to do is we'll take one or two questions, as I understand it, and then I'm going to head out to the DMZ and pay my respects to everybody, including some soldiers. We have tremendous military here in South Korea, and we're going to see some of our great American soldiers. I'll be talking to them, and I'll be seeing Kim Jong-un. And if you would, you could start with a question. Thank you.
네, 감사합니다.
Thank you very much. We will receive questions from the press. I know we have a very hectic schedule. First, we will begin from the presidential press corps, and then President Moon will answer the question, and the press from the White House will ask the question, and then the President Trump will answer the question. First, from the Presidential Blue House, CBS Park Jae-hwan. Hi, I'm Park Jae-hwan from CBS. I welcome President Trump, your second visit to South Korea. I have a question to President Moon Jae-in. During the open remarks that you made earlier in the summit, you said that you will accompany President Trump to DMZ, while the main actors of the negotiation and dialogue will be the U.S. and the North Korea. What do you think such progress in dialogue will bring going forward, and how do you see the possible third U.S. North Korea summit? And also, North Korea has, if North Korea abandons its Yongbyon nuclear site, I think you mentioned that the international society will seek actions to ease international sanctions. Have you talked about this with President Trump?
Mr. President, I am Park from CBS, and I'd like to first of all welcome President Trump upon your second visit to the Republic of Korea. At the restricted bilateral meeting this morning, President Moon, you had mentioned that you will be accompanying President Trump to the DMZ, but the focus of the dialogue that will happen at the DMZ will be between President Trump and Chairman Kim, and you said that you are looking forward to much progress being achieved there. So once the contact is established between President Trump and Chairman Kim at the DMZ, what kind of progress do you expect in the subsequent negotiations? And how about the possibility of a third U.S.-North Korea summit happening before the end of the year? And my third question relates to the written interview that you had given to various agencies recently. And in that interview, you had mentioned that if North Korea, under complete inspection verification from the international community, if North Korea dismantles the nuclear complex in Yongbyon, then the international community could explore the sanctions relief, partial sanctions relief. So has there been any discussions regarding this issue this morning, and what was the response from the U.S. side?
I will be going to Panmunjeom. I was also invited, but the focal point of dialogue is between the U.S. and North Korea. And it's a re-encounter of President Trump and Chairman Kim Jong-un, and whether this could lead to continued talks going forward. And I believe that this has a very significant meaning in this aspect. So today is the focus. The focus is on North Korea and the U.S., and I believe that the inter-Korean talk will be reignited going forward later. And the third North Korea-U.S. summit, I believe, depends on the re-encounter that will happen this afternoon. I think we can look forward to it. And your last question regarding the Yongbyon nuclear facility, when it when it is completely abandoned, I believe that it's a irresponsible denuclearization of the North Korea. And if these measures take place, I believe that the international community can discuss the option of sanction relief.
Yes, to answer your question, yes, I have been invited to visit Panmunjeom with President Trump this afternoon. However, as I had mentioned, the focus of the dialogue today will be the dialogue between the United States and North Korea. And of course, President Trump and Chairman Kim will have a reunion and have subsequent dialogue. And I hope that, and I do believe that this is vastly significant for the dialogue that will follow after the meeting today. And also, today, there will be a dialogue between the United States and North Korea, but as for the inter-Korean dialogue, this will happen at a later time. As for the question regarding the third U.S.-North Korea summit, I believe that how the reunion and the dialogue and the meeting turns out this afternoon will have a great say on when and whether the U.S.-North Korea summit will happen for the third time. So I do expect some progress there. As for the last question, what I had explained was that if North Korea goes through the dismantlement in a genuine way, dismantlement of the nuclear complex in Yongbyon, then this will mean that we'll be arriving at the entrance of a irreversible substantive denuclearization. So if this indeed is implemented, then the international community will be able to discuss partial sanctions relief. My words were in this context.
감사합니다. 다음은
Thank you very
트럼프
much.
대통령께서 질문을
Next,
받으시겠습니다.
we will have
백악관
questions for
기자
President
지명은
Trump.
저와 같은 백악관 대변인이시죠? 스테파니 그리샴
Stephanie Grisham,
해주시겠습니다.
the
Now we'll take a
spokesperson
question
of
for President
the
Trump.
White House,
Ms.
will answer
Stephanie
the
Grisham,
question.
the White House press secretary, will choose who will ask the question.
I'm going to let our president choose. Go ahead, Mr. President.
네, 대통령께서 지명하도록 하겠습니다.
Thank you. She's learned very well.
네, 굉장히
Thank you very much, Stephanie. I appreciate it. Just to add one thing to your question from CBS, it's just a step. It might be an important step and it might not, but what we're doing today is a step, and probably it's a step in the right direction. There's a good feeling, so it could be very good. As far as another meeting, I think let's see what happens today before we start thinking about that. But it could be very important. Let's see, a question.
네, 지금 그 방금
Next
얘기한
time.
것에 하나만
Go
좀
ahead.
더 추가하도록
Next.
하겠습니다. 지금 그 오늘 걸음이 이것이 긍정적인 방향으로 나갈 수도 있고 아닐 수도 있습니다만 옳은 방향으로 나가기를 바랍니다. 그리고 내가 지금 그 느낌이 좋습니다. 그래서 추가적인 그런 정상회담이 열리는 이런 여부도 오늘 그 만남을 통해서 더 그 구체적으로 알 수 있을 것 같습니다.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Mr. President. Margaret Talev with Bloomberg News. I hope you'll indulge me since we get one question. I'm going to try to make it count. Why do you want to step into North Korea, and what do you think that handshake could actually accomplish? Nothing has substantively changed since Hanoi. North Korea has tested short-range missiles. Why does Kim Jong-un deserve this moment? And how do you respond to the critics who say it's nothing more than a photo op or that you're legitimizing a nuclear state? I also quickly need to get in one China clarification, which is your agreement with President Xi as of yesterday. Does that bring you back to the point in April where they had made a lot of concessions on IP and that sort of stuff, or are you back at November, back at the beginning of the process?
So
and
it's
may I,
two very distinct questions.
Thanks.
Hold it,
I've got
before
one
you
for
do a
Moon
third.
also.
I know, you'll do
Okay.
that in a second.
Thanks.
No, we've made tremendous strides. Only the fake news says that they weren't. If you look again, I don't have to repeat it, but if you look again at where we were 2.5 years ago, and I think I can say the hatred that everybody had for everybody and where it was going. And I said that if President Obama's term was for some reason extended through any method, including having a successor that thought the way that administration thought, you would be right now at war with North Korea. And it wouldn't be pretty, be tough. We have the greatest military in the world by far. We have a much greater military now than we had 2.5 years ago, as you know very well. You reported on it. We bought tremendous equipment, from jets to ships to equipment for soldiers. But we are in a much different place right now, Margaret, than we were 2.5 years ago, much different. And the previous administration wanted to talk. I would ask people, why aren't they talking? And not everything happens with talk. Some bad things happen with talk, too. But in this case, we are so far advanced from where we were 2.5 years ago that it's always insulting. And I think it's why the press, frankly, has lost such credibility. They've lost such credibility. But to think that we're comparing where we are now to 2.5 years ago is, in a way, it's insulting. But we're doing well. Let's see what happens in the end. But we're doing well. A big difference. And as far as China is concerned, we are where we are. We're collecting 25% on $250 billion. And China is paying for it, as you know, because, as you notice, our inflation hasn't gone up. China has devalued their currency in order to pay for the tariffs. And in addition to devaluing, they've also pumped a lot of money into their economic model. They've been pumping money, and we haven't. We've been retracting. We've been raising interest rates, and they've been lowering interest rates. So we're not playing on a fair field. The Fed has not been of help to us at all. And despite that, we're winning, and we're winning big, because we have created an economy that is second to none, greatest in the world. And one of the things that happened at the G20, in fact, the president came up and said the same thing to me, President Moon. Congratulations on the economy. What's happened in the last 2.5 years is incredible. It's incredible. If the other thought process would have won the election, we would have, instead of being up 3%, we would have been down 5%, in my opinion. And I think you would have had a stock market crash, because we were heading in that direction. It would have been very, very ugly. Please.
네, 지금 지금 말씀하신 것을 통역하도록 하겠습니다. 블룸버그 기자입니다. 질문 하나이기 때문에 좀 길게 하도록 하겠습니다. 왜 그 북한에 가려고 하시는지요? 달성하고자 하는 목적이 무엇입니까? 왜냐하면 예전과 달라진 것은 별로 없는 것 같고, 또 북한이 단거리 미사일도 또 발사를 했습니다. 그런데 김정은이 과연 그 트럼프 대통령과의 만남을 가질 만한 그런 자격이 있는지요? 많은 비판가들은 도리어 이런 만남이 북한을 합리화하는 그런 것이 아닌가라고 비판하고 있습니다. 또 시 주석에 대해서 한 가지 또 묻도록 하겠습니다. 시 주석과의 어제 만남을 통해서 지난 4월 다시 말해서 지적재산권을 양보했던 그 단계로 돌아가는 것이 아니냐, 아니면은 도리어 11월 그 처음으로 다시 돌아가는 것이 아니냐, 어제의 만남을 통해서 그러한 질문들이 나오고 있습니다. 거기에 대해서 지금 트럼프 대통령께서의 답변은 다음과 같습니다. 지난 2년 반 전과 지금을 비교해 본다면 엄청나게 많은 진전을 이룬 것은 사실입니다. 그리고 이런 어디에서 이런 그 현실과 다른 많은 증거가 있는지 이해하기 힘듭니다. 만일 오바마 행정부가 했던 것, 그리고 오바마 행정부가 했던 그런 상황으로 나아갔다면 지금 우리는 북한과 전쟁과 분쟁의 그런 상황에 있을 수도 있습니다. 미국은 2년 반 전보다 훨씬 더 강한 군사력을 가지고 있습니다. 여러 가지 그 항공기라든지 장비라든지 또 제트라든지 이런 것들을 많이 확보해서 훨씬 더 강한 그런 군사력을 가지고 있게 되었습니다. 또 그 질문 중에 북한과의 대화를 왜 해야 되느냐라는 질문인데, 예전의 그런 시점과 지금의 시점을 비교해 본다면은 우린 훨씬 더 좋은 그런 자리에 위치해 있는 것이 사실입니다. 그런데 그 언론이 지금 계속 이러한 식으로 나쁜 방향으로 가기 때문에 언론이 믿음을 잃고 있는 것입니다. 물론 오늘 만남을 통해서 어떻게 될지는 우리는 두고 봐야 될 것입니다. 중국에 대해서 또 말씀을 드리자면은 중국은 지금 2,500억 중에서 25%를 미국에 관세를 내고 있습니다. 이것은 엄청난 그러한 수입이 미국으로 들어오는 것입니다. 그것을 그 관세 비용을 지불하기 위해서 지금 중국은 화폐 평가 절하를 하고 있습니다. 또 우리는 금리를 인상하는 데 비해서 중국은 지금 금리를 인하하고 있습니다. 그런 면에 있어서 나는 미국 연준이가 하고 있는 행동이 바람직하지 못하다고 생각을 합니다. 시 주석도 얘기했고 또 문재인 대통령도 나한테 얘기했습니다마는 지난 2년간 우리가 이루었던 것이 너무나 긍정적이기 때문에 많은 그런 축하를 내가 받고 있습니다. 만일 내가 아닌 다른 사람이 대통령이 됐다면 지금 미국의 상황, 세계의 상황은 훨씬 더 다른 것이 될 것입니다. 증시는 폭락을 했을 것이고 우리는 훨씬 더 안 좋은 그런 위치에 있을 것입니다.
And just to complete, you have to value the stock market from the day after I won, because there was a tremendous surge after I won because of the fact I won, because people want that thinking instead of the thinking that we had. If I hadn't won right after the election on November 9th, you would have had a tremendous decrease in the stock market. So I noticed that the previous administrations is given credit for thousands of points of gain right after the election. No, it went up because I won, and we'll take the credit. And if you take that credit, we've increased the stock market values by more than 50%. You have to take that credit. It went up only because I won, and it went up a lot between election day and and when we ultimately took office. And from there, it went up a lot. It continues to go up a lot, and now we're setting records virtually every day. And just to conclude on China, President Xi and I had a fantastic meeting. It's a great meeting. We get along. We also have a really, really good relationship. And he wants to see something happen, and so would I. And I think there's a really good chance of that happening. We had a great meeting. Thank you.
마무리를 하도록 하겠습니다. 내가 아까 그 증시가 상당히 올라갔다라고 얘기를 했는데 내가 당선된 그날도 증시가 상당히 올라갔고 그리고 계속 또 올라가고 있습니다. 만약 내가 당선이 되지 않았다면 증시가 완전히 폭락을 했겠죠. 그리고 이런 여러 가지 경제가 지금 잘 돌아가는 것에 대해서도 이것이 바로 이번 행정부의 공이다라고 말을 해야 되겠습니다. 증시가 점점 더 올라가면서 그 주식의 총액도 지금 수천 %더 올라간 것입니다. 내가 당선된 그런 그날에서 행정부가 들어왔을 때까지도 증시가 계속 더 하락이었고 또 행정부 시작에서부터 지금 현재 계속 더 더 화랑이 되고 있습니다. 시 주석과의 만남에 대해서 한 말씀 드리자면은 아주 상당히 좋은 그런 그 회담을 했었고 시 주석과의 사이도 굉장히 좋습니다. 그 시 주석도 뭔가를 해결하고자 하고 나도 해결하고자 하는 그런 의지가 있기 때문에 우리는 앞으로도 잘 해결이 될 것이라고 생각됩니다.
네, 고맙습니다. 네, 지금 이제 시간이 별로 많지가 않습니다. 지금 역사적인
we will complete the
지금
Q&A
시간이 많지
session.
않아서요.
출발해야 할 시간.
We will have to leave soon.
I'm sorry, but we don't have much time. It's time for us to go.
They don't want you to be a mediator in this case. How do you respond, and do you trust President Trump? And if you can take us to the moment when you are at the border, each of you, you are at the demarcation line. What do you believe that stepping over that line may represent for the United States and for the world? Thank you very much.
한 가지 더 질문하도록 하겠습니다. So your first question was to President Moon, right? 그 북한 측에서 그 얘기를 하기를 문 대통령께서 중재자 역할을 하는 것을 원하지 않는다라고 발표한 바가 있습니다. 거기에 대해서 어떻게 생각하시는지요? 그다음에 두 분 대통령께 질문하고자 하는 것은 오늘 그 비무장지대에서 두 분이 그 한 걸음을 해서 그 선을 넘을 건데 그것이 어떤 것을 상징한다고 생각하시는지요?
우선 우리가 대화를 통한
First of all,
해결
through
노력을
dialogue,
하지만
we will
모든
continue
일이
to seek
한
ways to resolve the
방향으로만
issue,
앞으로
but this is not a
나아가지는
one-way
않습니다.
process.
똑바로 나아갈 때도 있지만
Although it may go straightforward, but it may be curvy and it may be windy roads. And at times we will take steps back. However, without dialogue, other than dialogue, there is no other means to bring about success of peace. And the encounter in DMZ this afternoon will be a very significant and historic event in the peace process of the Korean Peninsula.
First of all, we are indeed striving to achieve peace through dialogue, but this does not necessarily mean that we will only travel in one direction. Sometimes we'll go straight, but sometimes we'll go through a long and winding road. There comes a time when we have to pause and sometimes we have to retreat. However, I can reassure you that the only way that we can achieve peace is through dialogue. So the meeting this afternoon at Panmunjeom will become a truly historic, a great moment in the peace process on the Korean Peninsula.
네, 감사합니다.
Thank you very
Thank
much. Thank you.
네, 그러면 이것으로 대한민국 문재인 대통령과 도널드 트럼프 대통령의 기자회견을 모두 마치겠습니다.
Thank you. This concludes the press conference given by President Moon and President Trump.
So there you have it. That was a joint press briefing held by the leaders of South Korea and the U.S. following their about 2-hour-long summit that took place from 11 a.m. Korea time this morning. And it looks like history has already been made. The two leaders, President Moon Jae-in and U.S. President Trump, has officially announced that they will meet with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un when they make a visit to the DMZ this afternoon. Now, for a more in-depth discussion on this huge surprise, let's once again bring in Dr. Bong Young-sik of Yonsei University Institute for North Korea Policies and Arirang's Foreign Ministry correspondent Lee Ji-won. Ji-won, you've been covering South Korea-U.S. relations A to Z, as well as North Korea's nuclear issue for years now. Could you pinpoint the main points made by the two leaders during the joint press briefing?
Sure, Tan. Just like you said, South Korean President Moon Jae-in started this presser by announcing that the two leaders will be meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un at the DMZ. Now, he said today, Korean Peninsula, together with U.S. President Donald Trump, is at the center of international community spotlight. He said President Donald Trump's meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un will be the first time ever for the two leaders to meet at the Truce Village, and the first time for the two sides to meet in 66 years since the armistice agreement was signed to stop the Korean War. Now, President Moon Jae-in also talked about how the ROK-U.S. alliance stretches and includes not only security issues, but also on other fronts as well. He lauded that both sides confirmed their ironclad ties today. One of the things that the two sides reportedly talked about is the investment between the two sides. He said since President Donald Trump's coming into office, South Korean companies' investment increased drastically, which is a win for both sides. He also talked about how the two sides will work on expanding and accelerating momentum to increase trade volume between the two countries. Now, he also talked about cooperating and solving regional issues, as Asia-Pacific is an important political region in discussing peace in the international society. And the two reportedly also shared views on the Oman attack and attention on the Middle East as well. Now, over to what President Donald Trump said. He said the two sides had discussions on trade, military, and other items. And he once again lauded how since his coming into office, North Korea's nuclear tests and threats have stopped. He also talked about his meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un scheduled for later in the day. He said he put out the word and he got back. According to President Donald Trump, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un wanted to have this meeting from the beginning. And last but not the least, President Trump said he is in no rush in whatever deal he is having with any countries, including Iran and North Korea. So I think he might be trying to hint some message to North Korea there as well.
So Dr. Bong, wow, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un really will show up at the DMZ. This is certainly something we have never witnessed before. This indeed is history in the making. But some argue that President Trump, this is just President Trump's TV reality show politics, and this is just some harshly criticizing him say that this is just one-time pointless theater. Do you think their encounter this afternoon could set the stage for more in-depth discussions and salvage the stalled nuclear negotiations between North Korea and the U.S.?
Since you emphasized the President Trump's talent in running reality show and politics, I'm going to respond to your question with his own phrase. Let's wait and see and hope for the best. But the reality show may end up a show, but sometimes reality show may end up a new reality. So there's a saying that in order to boost your stock market, and turn around your economy, you have to build bubbles. Bubbles are not reality of the harsh economic conditions, but when consumers and producers gain more confidence about the future, then it will lead more investment, more risky adventures, and more consumption, so that the end result will be fitting to the high expectation, which used to be regarded as just a false hope. So that's exactly what Donald Trump is going to do toward Kim Jong-un's North Korea, basically building personal trust so that it would alleviate the very strong sense of distrust and insecurity about the outside world when changes. So this might be just a symbolic step, but a symbolic step may lead to a gradual change of hard reality. That's the best scenario, and let's wait and see what happens.
Now, for more in-depth discussion on this huge issue, we now connect to Henry Sokolsky, Executive Director of the Non-Proliferation Policy Education Center. He's now joining us through Skype. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So I'm sure you heard about this huge news that just broke out. The leaders of South Korea and the U.S. will meet with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un when they make a visit to the DMZ this afternoon. But do you think their encounter can set the stage for a more in-depth discussion on denuclearization?
I don't want to sound glib, but there is no way you couldn't help but have something more detailed than a handshake. So, I mean, whether it sets the stage or not, I mean, it's pretty low bar. And I think the expectations are going to be raised, certainly by just the meeting, that surely they have to meet after having such a brief encounter. So I guess, on balance, there'll be another meeting. I think, everyone, the Americans, the South Koreans, the North Koreans, for very different reasons, want to keep the diplomatic ball in the air. And so, of course there are going to be more meetings, but whether you need to have a handshake to make that happen, I'm not so sure, but surely it makes it more likely, yeah.
Now, we've seen various developments since the Hanoi summit, including the summits between Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin, as well as Kim Jong-un and Xi Jinping. And the exchange, of course, of the personal letters between Kim and Trump, and of course, the handshake that is expected to take place at the DMZ in the coming hours. Do you now expect a possible change in Washington's FFVD stance following those warm developments?
Yeah, I kind of doubt it. Certainly what has changed is how quickly the President Trump thinks he can achieve anything, or even wants to achieve anything in a big way. I think he likes to have the diplomatic ball in the air and the sanctions on, so he can say, I'm pushing for total and complete disarmament. It's going to take time, but just watch carefully what I'm doing. South Korea, meanwhile, is very eager to have any kind of talks, even if it doesn't lead to much disarmament. And the North is kind of hoping that as long as there are talks, the argument will be, why do we need to be bracketed by American troops in the South? Surely they should go home. And so, as I say, for very different reasons, these talks serve the leaders' purposes, but the purposes are kind of at odds with one another. So we'll continue this. I mean, it's been going on for a while, and it'll go on for a while more. The question is, will the key things that each of these parties want occur? My hunch is that the North is doing better than South Korea or the Americans in this regard. I think that the logic of American presence in South Korea is a little bit lower than it was before this process started. And I think that's what the North Koreans are most eager to achieve.
One last question before I let you go. Possible differences between President Moon and Trump in denuclearization approach that weren't revealed to the public?
Yeah, I don't think it's too mysterious. I think President Moon is more inclined to get the sanctions taken down as a way to make sure that there are more talks. And then I think he's less inclined to be a stickler on the specifics of the nuclear disarmament. Whereas I think the president, both for congressional and political reasons at home, may be willing to let the talks go on longer and not have a deadline. But he'll try to claim that the sanctions are things that we need to have to leverage some greater progress on actual physical disarmament moves by the North. What remains unclear to me is why the North would take much action to disarm. They might do a little to keep the talks going, but in general, I think material is still being made in the North that's usable for nuclear weapons, and they seem to be making some progress on their missiles with very few tests. So we'll have to see how this unfolds, but I'm sure there are going to be more talks. That I'm confident of.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Sokolsky, for your insights today.
Okay.
I do have more questions lined up for you, Dr. Bung, as well as Chiwon, but I'm afraid that is all the time we have for you in this edition of News. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Thanks for having us.
Now, we are hearing that President Trump is now in his presidential limousine to get to the Yongsan base, where he will hop on a helicopter to get to the DMZ. Now, this is it for this edition of Arirang News, but don't forget to tune in at 2:30 p.m. Korea time, because we will be back with the latest updates on the historic encounter among President Moon Jae-in, President Trump, as well as North Korean leader. So don't forget to tune in. Thank you for watching.
The conflict between Washington and Tehran entered a new phase following the tanker attacks and a shoot-down of a U.S. drone over the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. carried out cyber attacks and imposed economic sanctions, while Iran scaled back compliance of its nuclear pact with world powers. How will the two sides resolve the ongoing conflict? Find out more on our latest episode of The Point, World Affairs.
Now, a glimpse into your everyday life.
Morning Monster introduces a variety of new technologies developed in Korea, as well as the smart changes they have brought to people's lifestyles. This week on Morning Monster, we look into the waterproof technology that displays humidity and temperature levels, and even glass that can remove water on its own. Also, we introduce water leisure industry that offers equipment from underwater semi-submarine boat to electric surfboard that has its own driving force. And we explore the tourism industry that incorporates ICT and media facade to provide individual customized service and experiential contents. Don't forget to tune in and join us.
Hawaii, a romantic paradise on earth. Korean politicians active overseas have gathered together. This is the place where war veterans who gave their lives in the First and Second World War, the Vietnam War, and the Korean War are buried. They stop in front of a gravestone. Kim Jong-un. Engraved below his name is the phrase, "Go for broke."
While the children said, you know what?
It means to fight with all you have.
Fight for America, even though their parents are interned.
Who could this person be?
I was thinking,
해외에 살면서 어떻게 성공을 했고 어떻게 적응을 해가지고 영웅이라는 말씀을 들으시면서 살으셨나 그거를 배우면 좋을 것 같아서
외국에 사는 교포들뿐만 아니라 우리 대한민국에 사는 우리 한국 분들한테도 진짜 영웅이 되실 만한 충분하게 훌륭하신 분이라고 생각하고 있습니다.
김영옥 대령이야말로 750만 재외동포와 그리고 5,200만 대한민국의 국민 내국인들을 연결하는 상징적인 다리로서 손색이 없는 분인 거죠.
The traces or stories of a person who has left us can sometimes become unexpected gifts. The life of the late Kim Jong-un that we will take a look at now is like that. It's January 29th, 1919 in Los Angeles, USA. A boy is born into the family of independence fighter Kim Sun-gwon. His name is Kim Jong-un. In the Japanese colonial era, just being the son of immigrants